listening to the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on LA Talk Radio.
That's right, it's the Sheena Metal Experience right here on LA Talk Radio. For more info on the show, latalkradio.com and SheenaMetalExperience.com. Don't forget to email me and let me know what you think of the show, and to call and talk to us live if you so desire. It's 818-602-4929. That's 818-602-4929. Joining me on the show today, they're in the hot new play Orpheus Descending right here at Theater in Los Angeles, and you know them from their various television and film work. Welcome to the show, actress Denise Grosby and actor Gale Harold. It's so nice to have you guys here.
Good afternoon.
So nice to have you both here. Let's talk about the play to start. Do you guys both come from theater backgrounds?
Yes.
Yes.
Lots of theater from you both?
Yeah, I would. Let's say this is my third play I think I've done in the last year and a half. Yeah.
And have you always done theater in between film and TV stuff, like when there's time to do it? Because theater takes a lot more time than show up on a set for 3 days and do a TV show. I mean, it's a commitment.
Yes, it is. Back and forth.
As much theater as you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't. You've got to do the TV and film work if you're going to, pay the rent. It doesn't really balance out that way. But I think you do theater for your soul.
Yeah, and LA has a good theater scene. I mean, I think there's an idea that LA doesn't have theater, but it really does. I mean, it
certainly does.
Much more than even I went to New York a couple of years ago to do the Vagina monologues, and a lot of the girls that were in the cast were like, if you're not working on Broadway here, you're going to Jersey, or you're going upstate, or you're working in Queens, and, we wish we lived in LA and we could do some more theater. So that kind of shocked me, because I think you think of LA as being film and TV, and that's pretty much it.
I think so many great plays have come out of LA, though, in the last few years, that originated here and then went, all became hits throughout the country. And the only problem here is it's not central. It's not centralized. You have to really work to get to these places where all this great theater is, but it certainly exists.
Right. We don't really have we do have a theater row, but it's not really, all our greatest theaters aren't on it.
Well, we have a great, Santa Monica, it's a great group of theaters, but we also don't have a subway.
Right.
We also have a lot of traffic. We also have a lot of miles to cover. And people are scattered, It's not integral the way it is in New York or in Chicago or other cities that are more reliant on their theater, but it's definitely here, and it's very alive, and there are a lot of really talented people that are working constantly.
So true.
I mean, there's so much talent here, and they're all here to express themselves, and it exists, thankfully.
And the fascinating thing about it too is that a lot of the people that come here to work in film or in television are theater trained and come from other cities and have worked all over the country and internationally, and they've done a lot of rep, and they come here because they've gotten a job where they're changing up their direction, and but when they're not booked into a contract job or whatever, they go back on stage, and it's really, really vibrant,
Yeah, and if you're here and you're a fan of someone as an actor, it's great to see them in a play. I mean, if you like somebody in TV or you like them in a film, you're going to love them in a play, because that's where you really get to see them really work and just...
You say those prayers to yourself every night.
or so we hope. Now, Denise, you grew up here.
I did.
So how have you seen the theater scene kind of evolve in the time that you've been here?
Wow. Well, God. I mean, growing up here, there was always this kind of vibrant theater scene. I used to go to a lot of children's theater here, and there was always some great places up on Vine Street. I'm trying to remember the great theater that was there that Biloxi Blues originated in, and it's gone now, though. But this has always been primarily a television, town. So I think there's more theater now than when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think LA, that's one of the things LA's done over the last 20, 25 years is try to really kind of boost its theater scene. So there's a lot more places that if you're not at the Amundsen or the Schubert or the Pantages, there's a lot more choices in between
Yeah.
of nice theaters where you can go and see either known or unknown actors, and even sometimes you'll see, you know, stage actors from other places, like Gale said, coming out and doing theater here because it's there's stuff happening and it's an interesting role. Or a lot of actors, even a lot of people I've had on the show were primarily theater actors and then decided to try film and television and came out here. And you know, you want to, I think you miss the theater because it's a whole different energy than sitting on a set and waiting for your minute. And
No question.
One other thing that's kind of fascinating about it is that there's a bit of an interzone here where you've got all these people that are ostensibly here for one thing or another, and they kind of go in these intervals. They're not really doing one thing or the other, and they're starving for work, you know. And I'm not talking about financially. I'm talking they just want to work, you know. They want to get together, and if you don't have a solid group of people that you work with, if you're not a member of a company or you don't have a steady group of people that you do scene work with or whatever, then I think that the creativity just grows into, let's do this show, let's put it up here, you know. And there's, I mean, directors, writers, and actors, and theater technicians, crews. It's kind of amazing. But then when you walk down the street, you don't run into the people that you work with every day. I mean,
Right.
you can go down on Sunday and go back on Thursday, and I would never run into someone necessarily on my street. Whereas if you were living in one of the other cities, you know, where you're on Theater Row, or you're on the train, you're on the bus, you would see them around town. You know, it's kind of bizarre, but it's amazing.
Where do Los Angelinos go at night? Everyone kind of disappears into the shadows, and then
I think they go to the LA River.
because it's overbrimming with water.
And
it's like one little stream that, you know.
And if you have a cane pole and a couple fish and a piece of corn, you can go home with some
You can
food.
catch somebody's tennis shoe.
Yeah. Nike.
Or other parts of them.
Exactly. That have been thrown in the river.
Absolutely.
Well, Denise, you grew up here, so you would know more about that.
Oh yeah, I used to hang at the river all the time.
Just hoping to catch a private part fishing.
Yeah,
Bring it home. Take it to the children's theater.
Me and Elm, you know, yeah, right.
Or a lotto ticket with a good number on it.
That too.
Gale, you grew up in the South in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you kind of make it here?
I left Atlanta initially to go to Washington, D.C., and was going to school there and dropped out quite rapidly, and then made my way to San Francisco. Went to the Art Institute there, and from there I made my way down to Los Angeles. So,
And did you always know that you wanted to be an actor?
No. I started very late. I didn't even really understand how to read plays as if they weren't books. It was all really literary to me, you know. And I was studying, sort of trying to understand filmmaking in school from more of a conceptual point of view, you know. And just by virtue of knowing different people, like a painter introduced me to a film writer and producer, and then it just slowly sort of evolved on its own, you know. So.
The thing I like about you both, and I've never seen you on stage, so until I see the play, I won't have seen you. The thing I like about you both as film and TV actors, and I lump those two together because if there's a camera in your face, it's a different kind of acting. You're both extremely subtle actors that tell a lot with your face by not actually moving your face a lot. You're both eye actors. Because honestly,
Wow.
you know, a lot of people have they move their faces. And in theater, you kind of have to, or the people in the back row don't know what you're doing. But a lot of people in film, you see them moving. With both of you, you more feel the emotions through you than you see them. And I think that would be an amazingly hard thing to do. And I'm a theater actor, but I've done a little bit of film and TV, but I think that must be the hardest thing, is that when you've got, you know, a set with 300 people and a camera is like in your face this close, and you're trying to convey every emotion that you're feeling, and you do that in a way that you forget that you're even in a body that's moving. You're feeling the emotions of somebody who is separated through your TV and then their camera. I think that's fascinating. So I love that about you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
I've
very
never
much.
been. I've never been. That's never been pointed out to me before. So I'm really flattered by my eye acting.
That was a little airy-fairy, wasn't
I'm
it?
so
But
glad
you know,
I studied all that. You know, but fencing and
well, but when the camera's in a close-up, obviously that's not a fencing scene.
No.
I mean, the action scenes for sure, but I think the hardest things must be when the camera is so close that you have to so be into it, or everyone's going to notice.
You say this about cameras and stage, and to me the approach is the same. Quite honestly, I mean, yes, I need to project in a different way, vocally on stage, but the approach to the work and the connecting to the work and the emotional journey for me is the same. And the difference is that, the TV roles don't really require usually that intense of a journey.
Right.
Perhaps maybe just for a second,
right,
as you have to react to, somebody dying or something. But I mean, it still has to you still have to do the same kind of work. I mean, so whether the camera reads it or the people feel it, from the stage, I think that's a really interesting thing.
It's also when you bring up the topic, because I think about this a lot, it's really daunting to think about how to make those, and they are adjustments of a different kind. But for instance, someone with an incredibly powerful resonant instrument that when they open their mouth, right, it's just they bring so much, just the way that the tone of their voice and the power of it. But then there are other times when you can tell that you're watching someone on film who is so controlled, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really powerful skill to have, but it's a mind game in a weird way, and it can take you to a place that's not. It feels so foreign, And the trick of it all, I mean, the magic box is the camera, the way that film works. I mean, that's what's doing it. It's the physical dynamic between those particles moving back and forth. It can take your face and just
right.
It uses it, you
right,
know.
Sure.
And so if you're not careful, you can overdrive it to the point of distraction, which is really strange,
Yeah.
And it's terrifying, but it's amazing because if you see someone like Ralph Richardson, the guy is just
Or, speaking of Orpheus Descending, the film version is the fugitive kind, and I don't know if you have seen that film. It's amazing if
I have not, no, but I will.
It's Tennessee Williams wrote the screenplay from his play Orpheus Descending. It's almost identical, but a few changes. Anyway, the opening shot of that film is really interesting. It's not part of the play, so it's written specifically for the film, and the camera holds for probably 5 minutes at least without changing, without moving, on Brando, just holding his body and face, and they don't do shots like that anymore.
No.
And nor could very many actors really sustain that.
No. Yeah.
And he was connected, and therefore, you're fascinated by just watching his face, and other people are talking off camera, and he's not even saying anything, and he's just listening, and you hold on him.
Yeah, I think that probably more actors could do that than the average person. The average American would have the attention span to look at it. Mm-hmm. We've become a very quick fix, boom, 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 what's going on, what's going on, what's going on. And I think in a lot of ways that's too why a lot of actors love stage, because it's a chance to do a whole performance straight through.
Sure.
And it's a chance to really kind of... the thing I like about theater is that you can see it more than once because there's so many things to follow. It's unlike a film. It's not telling you who to look at. It's not making your choices. You're looking at everything the whole time. And sometimes I'm focused on Denise. Sometimes I'm focused on Gale. Sometimes I'm looking at something else. Sometimes I'm looking at the set. And so I would think for a society with ADD, it's fantastic. It's a new thing every time, and you can look at whatever you want. But why did you guys pick Orpheus Descending, and what kind of speaks to you both about the project? Because it is, it's Tennessee Williams, which is always fantastic, but it is one of his lesser produced plays.
Well, God, that in which you said, that Tennessee Williams is an opportunity, for any actress to, jump in and
Absolutely.
and test their metal. And I actually didn't even realize it as much as, I did once I started working on the part. I had, oddly enough, dabbled with this play much earlier in my career, playing the Carol Couture role. So I was very familiar with the piece. And my old acting teacher, Milton Katselis, had pointed me in this direction and wanted me to pursue this piece and maybe do it. He had directed Camino Real with Tennessee, and so we started to play with the piece. So then, many years later, Claudia had approached me about doing this, and I met with her and Louis Pepe, the director, and I was so taken by Louis and his energy and his intelligence and his creativity and his the possibilities, but was also quite worried for him that this was his first play he would be directing, that this was a beast to do, and but it just was so, they were passionate about it, and what an opportunity for me to do this nightly. It's just an extraordinary journey, and Tennessee writes for women, in a way that just isn't out there.
In a way that's very real. I mean, he writes real women. And not always paints them in the pretty light. I mean,
he does, and they're forces. They're forces of nature. The women that he writes for, and he holds them in such esteem. It's really extraordinary, and so it's powerful. It resonates for me all the time. This woman, I'm thinking of her all the time, and how, how would she handle this? What would Lady do in this situation? Or how, what an extraordinary life that, she led, and so it's really a wonderful journey you take with this kind of piece. This kind of writing allows for that.
And does that always happen, Denise and Gale? Do you kind of have to fall in love a little bit with your characters and fall into a respect for them? A lot of times, even if maybe they're not a protagonist, if they have very dark things or very bad things about them, is there a kind of a way that you sort of have to hook into them energetically to understand them, and you kind of, in the run of a play or in the run of a film or the run of a TV show, you carry them around a little bit with you throughout it?
I think so.
I think so too. Yeah.
I don't know about if it's falling in love. I mean, that's certainly a part of it, but it's just accepting whatever it is, and knowing that you've done or experienced by association the same things that they've gone through, no matter how horrifying they could be, or aggressively cruel, or whatever they do, or just stupid. They could they could be half-wit, but
Sure.
You have to put something that you remember or that you've experienced into it, and because if you don't, you get isolated from them, or they get isolated from you, and then there's no interplay. With this one, it's really a strange thing because it's based on a myth, and it's based on something, and that's sort of what's really overwhelming, how incredibly real the play is, a late 50s Southern play, but the ideas that are in there are thousands of years old, and all these characters come from some other place, and they're adaptations of other characters. So what you said about, you can go to theater multiple times and see different things, or you can look in different directions. This play changes from day to day. It's a live animal. It's really, you have it in your hand, you put it over there, you talk to it, and then you wake up in the morning and it's a totally different thing. And then you say your line once, and is that what I said? Or is that something that I'm repeating that I heard another character say earlier, because it's very musical in that way, because these ideas are very big, and they're very tricky, and they're hidden underneath, they're hidden underneath the racism that's there, they're hidden underneath the anger and the comedy. But for me personally, it's just hard to lock into that character and find out where he's coming from and why is he even there.
Mm-hmm.
His backstory is something that's kind of try to make as plain as possible, so it would just be truthful. But on the other hand, he's acting out an archetype, that is monstrous, and in a good way, monstrous in a good way.
But doesn't that? It's interesting because when you talk about how it's obviously it's an ancient Greek myth, so it's ancient, and it's interesting how with a good story like that, even if it's thousands of years old, you can adapt it, first into a play. This, like you said, set in the 50s in the South. Then now you're doing it here. It never, the classic stories, the classic plots, and the classic profiles of characters, of people, don't change. Right. No matter, it's like if you take a Shakespeare play, you can break it down and find somebody in your life that matches every one of those characters. And those characters are as real as now as they were 600 years ago, which is why you can set them in any time that you want to set them in.
And he was right in that he knew that the reason that Greek theater existed was to solve problems for people.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter what it is, it's always happening. And in a weird way, what you said about the fact that this is one of his least produced plays, I think that the way that he synthesized these two stories, the myth and then the story of the play together, it was too far ahead of its time, too fast. I mean, I don't even know if we can do it. The more that we're working, the less I understand it every day. It keeps changing, because the ideas are eternal. They really are. And you go there, you sit in the amphitheater, you learn your lesson, they take their masks off, and you walk away, and you go back and start working on the field, and then maybe next week you get to go and hear it again. But that's because you believe that there are other beings flying around you over your head telling you what to do.
Right. Right. Well, that's true. I mean, I think that the ancient Greeks, in a lot of ways, were the kind of thinking and progressive society that we're just growing into being now.
They had a lot of good ideas about social convention, for sure.
Yeah.
And about asking questions.
Yes.
About asking, why are we here? Why does this do this?
Right.
What about this? I mean, they were a philosophy culture.
And not being afraid of it.
Right. And not being afraid of the answer.
They'll put sin and goodwill on the table and say it's the same thing. It's going to happen at the same time.
Right.
And it's not sin. It's just this is how it works.
Right.
That whole pre-Christian world is very inspiring.
Yes, we're just trying to get there now without getting burned at the stake.
Right.
You opened it on Friday.
Right.
Did it evolve, like you said, Gale, into something different than when you started rehearsing it? I mean, did it?
Oh yeah.
Big time.
I think the difference between the time that we started and what happened on Friday was quite significant, and as it always is. But the difference between Saturday and yesterday, we jumped a wall yesterday afternoon, and then the whole thing sort of, like all the little gas flames sort of turned into one big bonfire yesterday. And that's what you wait on. That's another great thing. I think that so many people are always returning to theater because you get to put your force, your energy into this thing, and it keeps coming back to you every night. And then you take a break for 3 days, and you go back there, and it's all changed, and it's a new one, Well,
and it's like you said about it's like you said, Gale, about it. It's an energy. I mean, you have your energy, Denise has hers, the director has his, the theater has its, all the cast member have theirs. You kind of put it all into a hat, and it makes this living thing that lives for the run of the rehearsals and the run of the plays. And it's not only the emotional bond that everybody gets when they're in a troupe, whether it's for a short run of something or a long run, but it becomes its own living thing. It's its own entity. Orpheus descending becomes another member of the group.
Certainly.
And our particular director right now has created an environment in which he connects us to that nightly. It's not like just move there and grab this hat and put it on and project or what. It's really. letting us sort of rise into the spirit world of acting and of connecting our voices with, all that went before us, of this play, and it becomes much more alive in a different way.
And it really also seems that Lou has locked into what I think Tennessee was looking for with this play. That it was a call back into the past and a call out to the future. And it was a lesson about what it is to remain alive as an artist, being creative, and not letting all the things that can walk all over you win. That you're going to have to get up and you're going to get hurt over and over again. And Tennessee knew that. He lived through all those things, but he always somehow managed to wake up, pick up his pen, and open the page and start writing. And so Lou understands that absolutely, completely.
Yeah, deeply, and honors it. Respects it, isn't afraid of that, and continues to guide us into a deeper connection with each other, with the place, with history.
Yeah, he tries to remind us every night before we go up. He says, "We're here to give something to this room. It's to give something to the people that are here. We're sharing this with them. It's not it's just very different. It's not a very grandiose barn burner. It's more like we're going to tell you this story by virtue of the fact that this genius put it on paper, and hopefully you can understand what we're trying to get over to you."
And he uses some tools, that are really significant in reflecting the Greek myth. There's some masks, some ancient, sounds that are in the theater instrumentally. There's voices. There's a Greek chorus, so to speak. So there's echoing back to that time. He's included it. He's brought that on stage into this production with us.
Well, I think when you're doing a play in a modern theater based on a classic play, based on a classic theater, a classic myth, it must make you feel kind of connected, like you said, to the history, Denise, to the oneness, that there's not a lot different between us as actors from the 50s, actors from Shakespeare's time, actors from ancient Greek times, that everyone's always dealt with the same issues, the same questions, the same struggles, and it doesn't matter how many thousands of years have passed, we're all tied to each other, and also tied to each other just as human beings.
Yeah.
It's all the same. We're all struggling with the same stuff that the Greeks were struggling with thousands of years ago.
Absolutely, and also it's kind of a renewed respect for the craft. That we practice, because you kind of remember your ancestors that did this also, that put on a mask and stepped out on stage, and what their purpose was in doing so, and so it reminds you of this deep process that you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah, no, I think that's beautiful, and I think that's so true, and I think people forget sometimes as artists, which is a very self-absorbed life. You're so worried about your next job, your next this, your next photo. Right. Oh, my God, I can't believe someone saw my double chins. That you forget that every one of us is a part of a whole that's not just living artists, but every artist that has come before us in all the genres of art, the dancers and the painters and the directors and the writers and the actors and the musicians. And it's like a big wheel that you step into when you start doing it, that you're always a part of.
Yeah.
And that we all kind of have that. I think one of our goals is to, like Gale said, to help an audience to understand, to pass on, and like you said, Denise, to pass on the history, so that you guys are performing at theater. You want the audience to get what's in the play. Tennessee Williams wanted the audience to get what the Greeks were talking about. The Greeks just want everybody to get it, and it's all the same. It's almost like passing on the torch of knowledge.
But it's also one thing that you have to say. I have to say. You don't have to, but I do. about this play is that one of the things that, I'll never really understand this, I'm sure, before I die, with the way that he works, the way that he writes. From the way that he arranges vowels and consonants, and I can't even get around it yet in trying to say them every night. Technically,
You're doing okay.
sometimes, but I mean, he took this story and he read it, the myth. He read it and he saw himself in there, and he took that and he put himself in as a member of it, and it served as a foil for what he was going through, which you can interpret that any way you want to if you read the play, and even more if you start to know his life. But exactly what the Greeks did, it's very inclusive. It brings the community in to see themselves represented by an image on a stage, a tableau, right? And then all of a sudden the story gets told by music and by dialogue and by lights and by fire or whatever it is. But one thing that Lou says every night is that you need to remember that when you're giving this out, we're all Orpheus. Everybody in this room, on the stage, behind the stage, in the lobby, and in the seats, we're all Orpheus. We're all going to hell to try and get our love back because we've lost our creativity. Because he was that character, he could break rocks with strings by playing them. They would shatter. They would cry. I mean,
yeah.
That's
a bigger message than the average play gives.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But really, what's incredible about it is that it's about us. All of us have this energy, this creativity inside of us, and we're going to lose it from day to day. We're going to lose it, and we have to get it back. We go down to the horrible places we have to go, and we get it back, but we could still lose it on the way out. If you look back, if you let it go, you're going to lose it. And besides that, it's just beautiful, tragic drama because it hurts you. Well, it makes you feel good,
Yeah, yeah. So this play has been kind of an eye opener and a life changer for you both, as far as actors, and also maybe in how you just think about the world in general.
Absolutely. And I think it will be for anyone who reads it. And I remember the first 2 or 3 times I read this play, 5-6 years ago, I was still trying to understand it just as writing, and I think I'm kind of starting to really understand what it is.
Yeah, it's interesting how pieces come to you at times in your life when you need them.
So true.
If you just, I don't know.
Yeah. So we don't want to say manifest because of the overplay of The Secret.
Exactly.
But it is interesting when you're ready for something in your life or when you really need something, then it comes. And you might not even know that was what you needed until you're ensconced in the middle of the rehearsals or the work or whatever it is. And then you realize the new person in your life that you met, the new friend. And then you think, wow, that's exactly what I needed.
It's what we're just saying. Whatever you believe about spirituality or the supernatural or whatever, maybe you don't believe that there is a world full of gods and goddesses that are talking about us and to us. But when this myth was written, it was a long, long time ago, and here we are talking about it right now. Why do you get a job when you get it? Why do you get an opportunity to do something when you get the opportunity? Because it has nothing, in a weird way, it has nothing to do with us. It has to do with the story. The story reaches out.
Right.
That's the power of the creativity.
It picks you.
It can't die. That's the beautiful thing about art. You can't kill it.
And we have this wonderful actor that we work with, Curtis Jackson, who plays the Conjure Man in the Conjure Man. Now, he's played this before, and he's met Tennessee Williams. He met him while he was still alive and has had, many conversations with him. And he's also plays this interesting, mythological character in the play, and he has a wonderful saying of just get out of the way and let Tennessee speak through you.
Right.
Just get out of the way and Tennessee will speak through you. And or he'll say something like, just step out of the way of your greatness. Just step out of the way of your greatness. And it's, wow. You just go, yeah.
But don't you think that's kind of true, not only in art, but also in spirituality? And all the, whether or not you believe, as Gale was mentioning, I think the more you're on the planet, I hate to say the older you get and use that word, a taboo word in Los Angeles, but the more time you spend here, the more you realize that so much of it is just getting out of your own way. And letting the things come through you that need to come. Whether they're creative things, emotional things, spiritual things, you just have to step out of your own way and receive all the stuff you're supposed to receive, and not talk yourself out of taking that role because you think you can't do it, and not talk yourself out of doing something because it scares you, and just kind of letting it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it better scare you, because that's a telltale sign right there that you should be doing it. Because if it's not scaring you, then you're not doing it right. Because that's part of it. To step into that fear. That's why people always say to that aren't actors, oh my God, how do you do that? How do you go out there each night with people and say those words? But it's such an essential part of what we do.
Yeah.
To tell this tale through me as the conduit. It's just kind of. We can get very esoteric about it, but there is. Right. I do think there is a mysticism about it, and so
I think everyone has their own mysticism, whatever they do. I don't know how someone could cut someone open. They don't know how you could go on stage.
Right.
You might not know how someone could run into a burning building. I mean, we all have our thing that we do that contributes to the whole. And you and Gale are amazing actors, and that's what you do. People go, they watch you work, and then maybe they start asking those questions. And they go home and they're still asking the questions, and maybe for the rest of their life they'll start asking questions. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of what art does. It moves people.
And we've done our job.
You guys are great. I'm going to take a quick break, then more with Denise and Gale right after this. It's the Sheena Metal Experience, LA Talk Radio. We'll see you in 2 minutes. It's the Sheena Metal Experience right here on LA Talk Radio. For more info on the show, latalkradio.com and SheenaMetalExperience.com. Don't forget to email me and let me know what you think of the show. Their new play is at Theater. It's Orpheus Descending, Tennessee Williams' adaptation of the Greek classic. Actors Denise Grosby and Gale Harold are in the studio with me. Do you guys find that, because obviously both of you, I mean, one just has to go on the internet to know how many fans you both have. Is it hard to get fans of film and TV out to see you in a theater, or is it a pretty easy cross for people?
Yeah, there's a special back door. If you crawl into your television set, you won't come out.
That's all you have to do. If you click your red heels 3 times and open your DVD box.
And mine, of course, beam into the theater nightly. So
yes. And do they beam in and say hello?
They have been known to. And listen, this is a big call out to you Trekkies out there. Come on down. Get off your fannies. Turn off the TV. Turn off the TV. Come into the theater.
But you guys both were fortunate enough, or not fortunate enough, depending on how you look at it, to be on series that both have an enormous following that lasts forever.
Oh, I'm very fortunate.
Yes,
I say
very
fortunate.
Very fortunate, yes.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's like, certain genres in the world, and sci-fi is one, with Denise being on Star Trek The Next Generation, and Gale, of course, on Queer as Folk, and the gay community is another. Once you're an icon on a show like that, people will forever and ever, you're one of their favorites, and they will come and get your autograph, come and see you here, come and see your plays. And I would think it would be a treat, because if I loved an actor and I got to go see them in something that everybody hadn't seen, everybody's seen the TV show a million times, not everyone's gotten to see you in a play where every performance is unique.
Oh, good. Without a doubt. I mean, and I can speak for the Trek fans. I mean, they are a loyal, devoted bunch. They will support whatever you do and turn out. I mean, Patrick Stewart has had stories of, some odd things going on when he's been on Broadway, and,
people going to see the one-man Christmas Carol in a Klingon outfit.
Exactly.
Right. Sure.
Exactly.
But you got to admire the spirit. I mean, that's a beautiful spirit.
I think Patrick just said, whatever. You got to embrace it, because it's, you're not going to change it. I mean, listen, I pray that people come in their Klingon outfits to Orpheus. I think that would be a merging of, a lot of time.
I think that would make Tennessee Williams smile in a very wry way.
No question.
I think that would be hysterical.
Yes.
And you too, are you good with that?
With Klingons?
Yes. Did Klingons come?
To
see you?
I'm good with what are they called?
Romulans.
Romulans.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Because
I have
I
a
was
soft spot in my heart for Romulans.
Yeah.
I noticed. I
Yes.
noticed. I
Yes,
knew
yes,
that was
yes,
why
yes.
we
I'm
connected.
kind of a Vulcan girl myself, but at least their outfits are a little more subtle, and they can cover the ears with hair. So
Yeah.
if they come to the theater crowd, they don't seem as...
True. But I say, come out of the closet, all of you.
I love that. I think that's great. Well, I think that if you, for whatever reason, moved somebody in a film, TV, play, whatever, to the point where they will come out and see you for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, hey, you did something right. I mean,
Yeah.
as actors, we hope to move. And if you move somebody, then you
Yeah.
move them.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
it's very inspiring to know that you can see people over and over, in different places. And it took me a while to get used to it, because I felt a little panicked of trying to separate myself from what I was doing from role to role, you
Yeah.
know, with the assumption, I was probably making an assumption that there would be this expectation to see one character somehow melded into the next character,
Right, right.
And that's a little bit, that was daunting for me. It took me a while to get over it. I was really frightened of it for a while, but now it's finally grown up enough to be okay with that. I mean, I was always okay. I loved to have the people come, but I wasn't sure exactly who they were coming to see.
Yeah, I understand that.
You know what I mean?
That's true. And that's very
Which is
true.
great. It's part of the whole the big story,
Right.
Well, I think it's kind of cool because it kind of leads them in, on this love of this character, or this that's touched them in some way, and then you just go boom and you smash any kind of expectation or preconceived notion of who this person is. You always want to keep everyone a little off guard.
That's good. Well, I think there's part of fans that always wish you would play the same role over and over again, and they would get to live with that character forever. But then I think the other part of them that just is a fan of the work understands that they just like the fact that you were good enough at what you did that it made them want you to play that character forever.
And that's a very important thing to acknowledge, that what you're saying, and that took me a little while to learn because I started late in life, and I was training as an actor for 3 years, and that's nothing in comparison to some of the people that I've worked with. I mean, they've been training since they were 6, 7, 8 years old, and went to university and theater school and everything for it, and I got quite a break, and so it was hard for me to feel comfortable. I was nervous. I thought I had a lot to keep up with. Like if I didn't completely disassociate them from anything else I'd done previously, I would feel like I was failing them, and so that made me kind of hesitant. And it was kind of very interesting.
I think it's the part of acting they don't prepare you for. They don't tell you how to deal with your fans. There's no acting class that you take when you're in 9th grade that prepares you for how to deal with your real life versus the characters people love you in, and how to deal with them when you see them.
Well, maybe
in
you
real
feel
life.
this way too, Denise. But like, if you're a musician, or you're a politician, or you're an athlete, or you're a writer, you are yourself.
Right.
Right. But when you're an actor, at times you are someone else and yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Only because in what we're talking about now, it's you and someone else who's come to see you, and then there's your third person, right, who is yourself as someone else, and they're all different, but they're
Right.
happening simultaneously.
Right.
If you've written a song and you've performed it, and someone's listened to it and it's really moved them, and they come and they talk to you about it, then you know exactly what they're talking about.
Right.
But it's not the same as someone coming to you and talking about a character you've played and their take on the character that you played, because you played that character and that character was edited and cut and spread around. It all becomes much more amorphous,
Right. No, that's very true.
Yeah.
No, that's totally true. And also I think there's also that, like I said, eventually fans come to the place where they realize you were just amazing at what you did. You moved them, and then they want to see everything that you do,
Yeah.
except for the wacky packy ones.
And if you're not such a paranoid freak, you know that's happening from the beginning, so you don't stress yourself out.
Right. And I think especially when you're talking about a show like Star Trek or a show like Queer as Folk, which was so groundbreaking, both of those shows, that people were very, very moved. I mean, Queer as Folk was one of the first of its kind in America, where gay people really needed that show. And for people that believe in outer space and space exploration and science fiction, that's a passion too. And that's a lifestyle for them. And Star Trek represents that. And that's where they can go to the conventions and really be who they are and not have to feel like you can't go to work and sit down with your pencil and your Klingon outfit. Right. So I think that when you identify a character with being who you really are, then it's you connect to them.
But then again, the other thing as a part of it is it's regardless of what the context is. When someone sees you over and over again, and they don't know you personally, but they know you because you look exactly like the person. And we were talking about before. I mean, if you're an eye actor, like we are,
like we now are, right? From this day forward.
Oh my God!
Then there's certain things that you're going to do that they're always going to know. I mean, one of my greatest idols. When you look at Gene Hackman's face, you know who you are looking at, and you are begging for him to do those things that you love so much, no matter what the character is. Because when he does it, all of those memories start flowing through your head, and in your heart. So, it's very, 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 very weird. But it's back to camera, the way that humans work with cameras and they be captured.
It's very complex.
Beautiful.
Okay, the play Orpheus Descending is running until February 21st, 2010. My guests, Gale Harold and Denise Grosby, actress Denise Grosby, are in the play, and you should go and see it. It's at Theater, and it's doing well, and everyone's happy. It's on a 5.
Everyone. Every person.
You know what? The publicist is happy, so I'm happy.
Good.
5041 West Pico Boulevard. That's Theater, 800-838-3006. Go and see these enormously talented actors in this play. I can't wait to go.
And dress up.
And yes. And make sure to wear your Klingon outfit. I'm going to go. I don't have that, but I do have a big bunny suit, Denise. I'll wear that.
Please do.
So that's how you know it's me.
Please do.
Where can people find you both online?
I think...
online.
I know where.
Well, with me,
the Social Security Administration website.
Yeah, my prison number underneath my mugshot.
Department of Parking and Traffic, San Francisco, California.
I have a website, denisecrosby.net.
And it's very comprehensive.
Is it?
You've done a good job with it. It's got lots of good stuff.
But the gal that runs it for me is phenomenal, and so there's all kinds of stuff on there. They can reach me through that.
And Gale, do you MySpace, Facebook? I know you're on IMDb. People can go there and see everything that you've done.
But you have to remember, people, that it doesn't mean that you said it just because someone read that you said it. And I don't have an online persona in any way, shape, or form.
You're off the grid.
He's mysterious.
I'm kind of envious of that in a way.
I know.
It's kind of impossible for me to do that, but I kind of admire.
I haven't made one keystroke in that world, and I haven't had to because it just gets made up every day anyway. Right?
Nice. Yeah.
Actually, we're getting married next week, so we'll break the news to
good.
you.
Good. Maybe you can have a little reception after the show when I'm there.
And I'm having a mini Mac implanted into my brain.
You guys are great. Will you come back and see me again? I would love that.
If we can we be on the show with
anybody you want? You pick.
Anthrax, perhaps?
Yeah. You want to? Sure. Yeah, I'll set it up.
Okay.
Yeah. You mean the band, not the poison.
Either one.
Not the disease.
Both probably at the same time.
Or how about poison?
Poison?
Or poison.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Done.
You guys got stuck with characters. I got stuck with the name. You know what? The business deals you weird stuff you get stuck with sometimes.
I just made the assumption that it was some sort of secret message that metal fans knew who you were and knew that you were like saying two things at the same time.
Right, like in
it's
some
that,
secret code.
Some of the metal fans were program directors and keep wanting me to use the name.
I think we should have a big metal show on here. I mean, like
let's
the real deal.
Yeah, let's do it.
I know some people.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, Gale knows some people and we're going to do it. The Sheena Metal Experience, LA Talk Radio. Orpheus Descending is the play. Denise Grosby and Gale Harold are in it at Theater. Go and see it before February 21st. It's the Sheena Metal Experience on LA Talk Radio. You know what we do here, people.